Alright, so now we went over documentation, how to materialize documentation. Let's just see right here as an example. For DBT docs respective or data mart that's being stood up, previously mentioned in these predecessing steps. So now we're going to go through the testing and templating and mark macros really quickly as some additional content as well that DBT offers as functionality. So let's get started. Starting from the overview section, we're going to go into the additional context section and testing. So DBT tests allow you to validate your data models in a quick, seamless manner, utilizing the existing YAML files that you have in your particular configurations. That's in your DBT_project YAML file. And it's shown right there, example, if you want to expand that out at your own time. And so there are default tests and custom tests that you want to go through and get started with. And there's some more tutorial information through the getdbt.com documentation website if you want to check it out some more. And so with default tests, here's some examples that we want to go through in implementing just some default tests. So remember the marked schema file that we had? Well, in this with particular names, descriptions of our columns or our table as well, we can add some metadata related information. And here what we're gonna add for this particular column are tests. And DBT, when running a DBT test command in our command line or command prompt for a Windows user, we could test on things like, okay, for a particular column, is it unique? Moreover, do we not have nulls for this particular column as well? And DBT will abstract away the testing that you would do through creation, in particular depending on if you have assertions in SQL or you have some external packages referenced, Python packages executed with respect to the table reference. That's all extracted away, and then we can focus on testing within DBT itself. And so that's one great thing right here about DBT abstracts away, and you can leverage the features itself in DBT and doing some validation for your data models. So you have tests, and we're testing for uniqueness and not null as well. But maybe here's another default test that we want to add as well. For maybe the particular status field, we would only want these accepted values, which are placed, shipped, completed, and returned for status, or particularly for transaction status. And if there's any other values that come out of that as well, they could be an error warning for outside these value conditions or the accepted values for this particular column in some table name. And so that's just really great in utilizing DBT tests just to abstract away all that tests and really just go into testing, 1, 2, 3, doing a quick check. But then also if we have something a little bit more particularly want to focus on in our validation and testing, we can create, and it's more particular, we would want to create custom tests. And notice there's a test folder in our repository in the test path. We would specify again in our DBT_project YAML file. And so in this test folder, we reserve particular custom data tests. And here's an example of something where we want to implement. Say, this could be any name for the particular SQL file in this test folder. But here I have a file called assert number of rows catalog sales, particular to this table. Probably should do a better job of more generalizing, but hey, this is just a little bit onboarding tutorial. So we would count the total number of rows and make sure the gradient equals 0. So we do have a particular query, and if it returns records where it isn't true to make it, then the test would fail. And I'll show you quickly what that would look like as well, and particularly what that file would look like. Let's check that out. But that's custom test right there. Okay, and then going into our test subfolder right here, you go in that particular file a certain number, if it looks like the query in here. And we have a such query mentioned right here as well. So if there's any value rows returned, then we would receive a fail condition that would occur in running dbt tests in the command line. And that would be, actually, it's just running that dbt test command right here. Similar to running the dbt run with the specified flags. Here we'll just run dbt tests and check everything out. You can have flags for dbt tests as well, and feel free to again check out the dbt documentation for that, which can be seen here. Now in the same video, I'm going to go over templates and macros real quick as some additional content, and then just wrap it all up all together. So here with templating and macros, dbt uses a Python package which is called Jinja for Jinja templates, and that with utilizing that, we can leverage our SQL queries with existing functional programming to do a lot of more optimizations in regards to how we want to develop our queries. Not optimizations of performance of queries, but optimizations of how we want to utilize our queries, or how we will function when we utilize it with dbt as well. The powerful thing about Jinja templates. And then per documentation, Jinja is useful for control structures, so if statements and for loops, using environment variables with respect to dbt, change the way the project builds based on the current target information of your dbt run, operate when results of one query to generate another query, and abstract snippets of SQL query for reusable macros actually. And some of the things that we previously saw was in our source or base tables, we have this source and template configuration, and for reference of our particular table, you have these wrapping around in curly brackets. And then there are other such items as statements and then comments as well. And so here we're talking about macros a little bit, and dbt provides the out-of-box functionality as part of the package using dbt util. And here's an example. Say we want to have a long list of fields, and we don't want to group by about say 25 fields. We can list about 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., going up to 25 and group by statement, or we can utilize dbt utils and do group by the X amount of rows they want to group by, which was 25 rows, so we don't show 25 right here. You can enable dbt utils actually by running this following command, dbt deps dependencies, and that will be pre-installed into the dbt modules directory, and utilizing those utility functions within utility macros for your SQL queries as well. And then this will be for just the sake of having reusable macros as well. And templates. Personally, I call custom macros templates, but they're just custom macros. There probably is a more better defined term within the community for custom macros. But let's see. One create templates / macros through creating the macros in the macros folder, kind of similar to a custom test we created. In the test folder, we create custom macros in the macros folder. So here's an example. Say if we want to have the Haversine formula, which is already dbt utils calculation as a part of dbt utils, but say if we didn't have that, how would we go about calculating that? And we had using a particular query as a macro, particular custom macro. Here we would have curly brackets, percent sign, macro, and then the particular macro name, which I call the Haversine distance calculation, adding parameters, which are 4 parameters, and here with the percent curly bracket, and then adding our query with the particular commands to run our query and embed that in our SQL query. And we have this Haversine formula calculation, which is this calculation here. I won't go into too much of the details of the particular functionalities, not even proving theory, but this is the way it is right here. And notice that I'm utilizing these parameters here in curly brackets. So right here, column latitude 1, longitude 1, latitude 2 for another column, and then longitude 2 for like another column as well. I'm doing these calculations in Snowflake. Just keep in mind. And that's pretty much it for the custom macro as well. And then there's no particular commands you need to utilize for that, but just keep in mind to make sure you don't have errors when utilizing the custom macro in your DBT runs. And then I would like to add more, but I'll leave it up to you just to check out and learn more about tests as well. And just like when you're curious. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then we'll just go and wrap everything up in the next steps. Thank you.